how should individuals right now be thinking about positioning themselves? Is it just a matter of stacking sats and waiting? Are there other things they should be thinking about? What is, well, you mentioned you have kids, right? Like, what advice do you give your kids or young people more generally about how to deal with the uncertain times that we are in and headed deeper into?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think to me, it hits me really hard because my one son, Titus, he was a COVID baby. And for those first couple of years of his life, there was no social interaction. And his brother, Noah, COVID was done when he was born. And those first couple of years, the social life was vibrant. Parks, playgrounds, play dates. And I can see the difference in progression between Titus and Noah. Titus is 5, Noah's 3. But Noah's social behavior and thinking ability is almost on par with Titus. And I say that to say this, that it's not just about money.
Yeah.
Money is not, you could stack sats. It's not going to fix your life. Honestly, it's just a number. At one point, the number on your screen, you're like, oh, it's going to change my life. It doesn't change your life, actually. It's just a number on the screen. What changes your life is community, the ability to produce. So farming, security. And these are like really important social constructs that if you don't have in place, it doesn't matter how much money you have.
Yeah.
You could be a Bitcoin billionaire, but if you don't have family and friends and community and security, your life is horrible.
Yeah.
Your life sucks. So we need to get away from, I really think this goes back to the education curriculum, because we're not taught you go to school and you hear about bullies and all this other stuff. Why aren't they teaching leadership in schools? Like, why aren't there leadership programs that allow leaders to emerge? And, Jesus was a great leader and the apostles were great followers. But now that Jesus is gone, you go back and you study what he said, you look at what the apostles said. So they were great leaders too. So leaders bring about leaders. And we're not teaching our children to be leaders, which means we don't have the proper social constructs, which means we don't have strong, tight-knit communities. Everybody's kind of like in it for themselves. And so my advice would be, use Bitcoin as savings technology to get ahead financially. But put down the phone and walk out of detach from the matrix. Say hi to your neighbors. Build community. Learn how to defend yourself and your community. Have a plan just in case something happens, God forbid. These things are of the utmost critical importance. Learn how to grow food. Most people don't. The answer that I get is like, why can't you just plant a fruit tree? If everybody just planted a fruit tree, because not everybody has the ability to plant a fruit tree and tend to it and take care of it and graft one tree to another. But seriously, why aren't we being taught how to do that? There should not be one starving person in this country. There should not be veterans who fought for our freedoms sitting homeless in the streets. And the reason that we have that is because the focus is on money. Because we're getting our purchasing power sucked away from us so much that if we didn't put all of that extra time and energy we had into money, and you see this in Weimar and other hyperinflationary societies, it all became about gambling. Yeah, it all came about like when the shoe boy tells you about his investing portfolio, right? The shoe boy should be learning about how to start his own business to hire other shoe boys so that he can produce value in the economy. Instead, he's trying to buy a stock or go into the casino and trying to get lucky, or buying a lottery ticket. You know how much money goes into lottery tickets? That is evidence of a social problem. That is not evidence that people have some extra money and they want to take a chance. No, their main thought is, I can't get ahead in life unless I get a big sum of money given to me. Right. But that premise is wrong from the get-go. You can't get ahead in life if you don't have a wife. You can't get ahead in life if you don't have a husband, and if you don't have children. You can't get ahead of life if you don't have friends. You can't get ahead of life if you don't have a community that cares about your well-being. Those are more important than money. So that would be my advice. Understand money, leverage it to empower yourself financially, but being empowered financially frees you from thinking about money so that you can concentrate on the more important things and live a richer life.
Yeah, no, that's excellent advice, and it's something I come back to often, right? It's like, okay, Bitcoin's amazing in a lot of ways, right? Obviously, it makes you financially free if you use it properly, right? You stack sats over time, you accumulate, and you enjoy the rise in purchasing power. There's also this psychological freedom that comes with it if you study it, right? Like all the things we've talked about today. I always call it like, well, they call it the orange pill, or you could say it's an unplugging from the matrix, kind of the same metaphor. And that's great, right? Great. Financial freedom, psychological freedom, wonderful. But then you come to this point, if you have been fortunate enough to enjoy both of these things through Bitcoin, that you are confronted with this question. It's like an existential question. It's like, what do you do with all that freedom? What next? What now? Right? Like, great. I can do whatever I want. I'm retired, or whatever you want to call it. I'm financially independent. I've seen through a lot of the bullshit in the world. I've deprogrammed and reprogrammed myself, or am reprogramming myself. I think it's a process that never stops, obviously. How do I lead a meaningful life, right? Where do I go from here? And it's fascinating, right? It's like just a tool, just a money, just a financial system, but it changes you so thoroughly. And it does force you to confront these existential questions. And I like the acronym BTC, because where I started going with this is like, oh, the way I've tried to answer that question is like, be the change. BTC, be the change you wish to see in the world. So it's like, okay, financially free, psychologically free. I see things in the world I don't like. What am I going to do about that? Well, what would you like it to look like? Be that.
Yeah.
You know, be that. Like, you keep going back to education. I think that's an excellent one, right? Like, let's teach the kids what we have been fortunate enough to learn. We've had to go through pain and go through the 1,000 hours of studying Bitcoin, or whatever the trials and tribulations were to gain this information. Dare I call it wisdom to some extent? Like, let's share that to the best of our ability through formal educational channels. You mentioned security, you mentioned community. Like, are these things that are there explicit approaches to this you recommend? Like, should people be training with firearms? Should they be training in unarmed combat? Should they be forming neighborhood watches? Like, what are like specific channels of action you would suggest for people in this domain of like becoming self-sovereign?
Yeah. And I think that's part of what the curriculum needs to be at the schools. Self-defense is absolutely, I mean, when you look at the world, and a lot of them don't like the United States, but one of the biggest thing in the United States is that pretty much everybody owns a gun. There's like over 100 million guns.
Right.
We have more guns than like the world's militaries combined.
Yes.
Just by free citizens.
Which has kept government oppression low here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you ask any of the people, like, I've been on vacations and we've met couples who are from Venezuela or Argentina, and they always say, never let them take your guns.
Of course.
Never.
Of course.
And if you've never shot a gun before, it's just like Bitcoin mining. Like, the pros that come from it are limited, because in Bitcoin mining case, you learn about the network, and that delivers immense value. But when you shoot a gun, you never want to have to shoot that gun pointed at a person.
Of course.
That's like your worst nightmare.
Yeah.
But when you do shoot the gun, you feel the power of it. You start to understand what it really means. And that's really important for a developing person. We have desensitized our children with Grand Theft Auto and video. I mean, I see video games where people just shoot each other. Fortnite, even cartoons shooting each other. It's violence, 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 instead of defense.
Right.
And then that gets you into this idea where you know, why are cops being killed? Because kids are growing up being told violence is how you solve problems. But defense is how you solve problems, right? There's a lot of studies that show towns that have open carry have less crime.
Yeah, armed society is applied society.
So I think arms training, and from a young age, building a respect to the power of what that means to control a weapon and how it can be used to take a life. That's the thing. They've devalued life itself. They want to rip babies out of the womb. They want little boys to become little girls. What is that? What ultimately is that? It's a disrespect for life. And that's one of the things I love about Bitcoin, because it gives you that financial freedom. You actually start to look at life differently, and you gain a massive respect for it.
Yeah.
It's something that's so special and so unique. And you hold your first child in your hands and you're just like, how? And it changes the way that you want the world to be. And in a fiat system, unless you find a way to deliver immense amount of value, which is very hard to do in this overdeveloped type economy that we lived in, where everything's been financialized and there's nothing new under the sun, right? So it's going to take innovation, and innovation only comes once in a generation. So for the regular person to be able to deliver value, the best way, in my opinion, to do that is to reject the ideas of that life is meaningless and that life has no value, and start to develop a respect for that life. And once you respect life, now you want to do martial arts. Now you want to do defense training. Now you want to learn how to grow a garden and help people who are struggling. Now you want to know how to form a community and defend, because if something goes wrong, you can't just, what are you going to do? Put your hurricane shutters on and sit in your bed with your gun? You still want to live life. You still want to experience things. So you have to develop community. You have to develop friends. You have to, and you want your family. So many families are broken these days. It's like, it's almost normal. Well, on my way here, my driver had a country song on, and it was like, broken houses are normal. Mom and dad's fall out of love. And unfortunately today that's true, but I'm like, wow, this is going to music? Because, music feeds culture, and culture feeds attitudes and actions. And it's like, it's that deep rooted into our culture. And it is a money problem. I see you got Larry's book there. I love Larry.
Yeah. Who's here,
fix the money, fix the world.
Yeah.
Because when you fix the money, we actually pay attention to the world.
Yeah.
When the money's broken, we're so distracted by just being able to maintain our status quo and pay that next bill. We don't have $600 in savings. We don't have $1,000 for a medical. If something bad happens, I have to put it on a credit card at 30% interest. So with all of that going on, plus regular life, when do you have time to be the change? Bitcoin gives us time to be the change, and that is probably one of the most important things that it does. It frees us from that slave system and allows us to be the change and make those changes. And it's so much more than just self-defense and community. But those are the things that I really care about, because I think they're the cornerstone of a strong society. If you can build on that foundation, it's like building on top of Bitcoin credit. You want commodity credit because when the house of cards collapses, it collapses down to your foundation.
Right.
When you build circulating credit, there is no foundation. It collapses down to nothing. But when you have self-defense, respect for life, community, an understanding of nature, and even the miracle of food growing. Like, it's unbelievable that you can put a little seed in the ground, a little mustard seed. It creates this big, it's like, whoa, if that doesn't blow your mind, then you don't respect what we have here. And Bitcoin allows you to take a step back and respect what we have. And when you respect it, everybody lives a better life, because it's the people who disrespect life that bring down the quality of life and standard of living, that create the mass shootings problems, because they're just not mentally they've never been trained. They're not mentally in the right positions. All of that, if we fix that, life would be better even if there was no Bitcoin. But because there's no means to avoid the distraction that comes with the forcing of your devaluing money, we can never focus on those things. So you have to be financially free before you can start to focus on those.
Isn't it so interesting, actually, that the metaphor, even the language you're using, they're like, pay attention, right? Like, pay attention to how the world actually works, right? Like how food actually grows, how you need stable relationships with the local community. Fixing the money fixes your ability to pay attention to the right thing, rather than being just distracted or lost in this fiat delusion, right? That I can be a degenerate yield farmer on my phone or whatever fake fiat bullshit you're doing. Like, Bitcoin, it's a weird thing, right? It's like, it's such a modern technical innovation, but for whatever reason, it's like accelerating people back towards like very ancient principles of living. A lot of people getting into ancestral diets, a lot of people getting into church, people starting families, So people are stopping drinking, all these things that are like kind of classically good for you. Somehow Bitcoin is inducing people to move towards those things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a magic I haven't even really wrapped
what is
my
that?
brain around.
What is that?
It's wild how that works like that.
I mean, we could you could reduce it all to time preference, I guess, but I mean, I don't know. I guess time preference is just way bigger of a deal than we understand. Maybe
there's probably a chemical balance or switch in your mind when you're short time preference. You just a certain way of thinking is suppressed.
Yeah.
But when you're long time preference, those other ways of thinking, like, I don't really, maybe I have to struggle a little bit now because I have to grow this food by the sweat of my brow.
Mm-hmm.
But when I harvest this food and I feed myself and I bless another family, you get actual real reward. You get like a dopamine hit, like you would on a video game or something. Like people, but you get it from interaction with other. The dopamine hits start to go from personal to community.
Yeah,
and then you feel those effects. You see those effects in your own life. And it's funny because it does go back to what Jesus said: is treat others how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
Well, in a fiat system, it's very hard to treat others how you want to be treated because you're not in a position to do that.
Right.
But when you are financially in a position to do that and you start to understand some of these deeper things, all of a sudden it becomes like a big, philanthropy becomes a big thing for Bitcoiners.
For sure.
There are a lot of Christian Bitcoiners who are looking to give back with what they've been blessed with.
Yeah.
But you see a lot of fiat. I mean, like, who's one of the most popular fiat philanthropists is Bill Gates. But look at his philanthropy work.
I don't know if that qualifies as philanthropy.
Yeah, exactly. Some people would call it crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
So the definition of philanthropy under a fiat standard is much different than the definition of philanthropy under a Bitcoin standard. Yes. And I honestly haven't spent enough brain power on it to figure out how it works. Yeah. But it does baffle my mind.
Because again, if you go all the way back to the origin of the word fiat, right? It was God said, "Let there be light." So He spoke order into creation, spoke creation into existence, which in Latin is fiat lux. And so every time man uses fiat, right? Use this money or else, follow this law or else. I think it's man playing God, basically. And that's why these consequences are so. Bill Gates would be a great example. Like, if there's a man trying to play God, I mean, I would say he's, high on the candidate list, to say the least. And when we I don't know, something about Bitcoin just taking you the complete other direction, right? Towards radical humility. This like playing God thing is like, there's a radical hubris in that, where Bill Gates is like, oh, we're going to block the sun and jab everyone and doctor all the food, and that's going to save the world. Like, maybe in his mind and heart of hearts, he believes that's good. But anyone from the outside looking in can see that that is certifiably insane, right? What do you mean you're going to block out the sun? Like, what are you talking about?
The sun we need to grow our food?
Yeah, where all the energy comes from? You might want to think about that once more. But when you go, for some reason, going towards Bitcoin is just the opposite of that. It's like becoming the anti guy that plays God, right? You develop a reverence for God. And again, it doesn't have to be even theological. I often say, if you just want to consider God as the word for that which is beyond words, right? There's ultimate reality beyond description. So we're basically acknowledging our own finitude and humility when we acknowledge just the idea of God. You don't have to say it's a being or an entity or a sky dad or whatever. Just the concept of there being things that are beyond our conceptual grasp gives you humility.
Yeah. And ultimate truth.
And ultimate truth.
Because
capital T, ultimate truth is always beyond words. Of course.
You can't, and that may be the actual final derivative. Yeah. Is that the Bitcoin mindset is derived from truth.
Yes.
And the fiat mindset is derived from lies.
There you go.
And you have the energy of truth versus the energy of lies. Can it be a surprise that the society built on an energy of lies brings forth lies?
Yeah.
The derivative of the source.
You'll know the tree by its fruits.
Right? The currency, when it derived its value from money, it was truth.
Yes.
But when it derived its value from debt and promises that were broken and lies, the system broke.
It's a lie, yeah.
So maybe we can bring it back to truth versus lies. And when you build on truth, you always have that subconscious confidence.
Yeah.
Because you, like you said,
The
when
trust.
you tell
The
one
trust
lie, you
and
got to tell
truth.
another lie, you got to tell
Yeah.
another lie, you got to tell another lie, and you, by the end of it, you're like, I just want to live my life. Leave me alone.
Yes.
But when it's on truth, you get to enjoy the fruits of life.
Yes. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.